So the bike is stripped. Everything else here could be cleaned on the bike. Of course, you can clean it before you take it apart. It's your preference. Okay, when it comes to cleaning, me personally, what I like to use, trusty toothbrush and a blast of aerosol. The toothbrush is used with white spirits just to really get in there, and then the aerosol blasts it all out. Got to make sure you're cleaning all of those places around there. This is sparkling now. Also, just check the wear. This axle is good, there's no pitting, although you can see the scoring or the wear line where the bearings have been rolling around. There's no pitting, so this will be good to continue using. If you feel like it, you can just measure up the axle, measure up the shell width and replace it with a cartridge. But I'm going to reuse these. So, I'm going to get my grease and force it between each bearing. Make sure it's packed in there. And pop that in. Now before you go putting any bottom bracket shells back in there, always grease it up. You don't want anything to stick to these threads in future. Same goes with every thread on a bike. Grease it up. Remember, this side is opposite thread, so undoing it, we're going to be screwing it in anti-clockwise, of course. Try and make sure it's as tight as you can get it on this side. And then send the axle through. There we go. My bottom bracket came in one of these. It's just a plastic cover basically, to try and stop water ingress. And I'm just going to screw this non-drive side in just until it binds a little bit, then we're going to back it off because we don't want any play in this axle. Now when you spin it, you'll be able to feel if it's binding. So once you're happy with it, so I'm just going to back mine off ever so slightly. Get your C-spanner and do up your lock ring. Just check it. So I can feel a slight bit of play in there. So I am going to do it up a bit more. And that should do it. Now for me personally, when I'm refitting cranks, I make sure the surfaces are clean, grease free. It's because I don't want the crank itself to slide any further down than it needs to. It should be a friction fit. Other people do it differently though. So just grab your crank, fit it back on there, grab your bolt. Always best, if you've got some, to put some Loctite on here. And then finish it off with a dust cap. Oops. And there we go. Barn bracket is serviced. Now the same process applies for bearings for the headset as well. Make sure, I've already put a little bit in here, but make sure all the races are full. Pop that in. Look, wrong way. This one has a little washer that fits in there. That slips over the top. A brake mount over there, and then the top cap goes on. And we'll double check those later, but you can feel a little bit. Rock the fork to see if it is tight, and just clamp it down a bit. And this is why I say a headset spanner is important, because, well, it's kind of useless, this one, because this headset doesn't allow me to, but you need a thin spanner to fit underneath there to hold that one while you do that one up. And while we're here, some more grease stops the stem from potentially seizing up in there. Good. £6mm. And top cap on. Sweet. So we're going to need a new cassette on there. Always helps another person later on if you just put a light layer of grease over the hub. Then you get your new cassette, line it up. I tend to go for that. There's always one small notch on Shimano. So that drops on. That drops on. and then you just do that up. Now before I go ahead and fit the new cables, I'm going to change these brake pads because they're worn in that weird shape and they're also cracking. So a 10mm spanner on the back just loosens them, and then I've got my newer pads. What I want to try and do is get them as high up the rim as I can, try and keep the brake arm parallel to the ground, and also try and keep the back end of this brake pad like a millimetre away from the rim so that it's toeing in slightly. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but this is just going to be a rough alignment. There we go, we'll try that. That might work. We can change it again once all the cables are on as well. Okay, second to last job, I guess. Refitting those cables. So just feed them through. Just pull them all the way through. And refit those covers. Don't lose these because they are extremely hard to find. You'll probably have to buy a whole other shifter. There. Then once it's back at the front, make sure you feed them into the right cable. So this one's my front. I've got to put it into this lower cable housing, that is. If you are going to replace these housings, obviously replace them now. Of course, not every cable can be reused, so go replace one. That's why I say always hold on to the originals, because you can use that as a guide to how long you need to cut these. You can buy out cable per half metre, per metre, or as like I've got a 50 metre box. So I've measured that out there. And then I'm going to take the specialist snippers to cut that. This is specific gear cable. The threads run along parallel to the cable rather than a brake cable which is like coiled. Just open up the ends. If you have to, get a little poker in there just to make sure they're open up even more. Then get two end caps, put them on, make sure they're on there firm. Then you can feed the cable in. There we go, comes straight through. Now this derailleur should be in exactly the same place as I left it, so as long as my cable is taut, Should have no problems with the indexing. Later on, that is. And when you're done, when you think it's good, it shouldn't need any more cable than this. I just snip about 1.5 inches free, snip that off, get your end cap, stick that on and crush it. Okay, brake cables. So we should be able to just pull the lever back. We don't even have to pull the lever back really, but there's a little slot in the bottom. Feed that in, feed it into all the slots there and just turn it, just so it locks it. And feed the inner cable through. Okay, now it's time for the bridge. So they tend to be on these little hooks. There is a hole in the back, but you can take your cable and feed it through. I tend to have it about, if I've got the cable pulled taut, try and do it up just so it's in line with this mudguard bolt. If you've got mudguards, obviously you've got to have it higher, but yeah, around there. Is where I personally mount them. And then take your bridge wire, hook it in, or feed it through. Oh, there we go. And then with your bridge wire hooked in, you should be able to put everything through. There you go. That's actually pretty damn good. There was a tiny little bit of slack in the cable and they've just released ever so slightly, which is good. This side is moving a little bit more than that side, so there is a little Allen key. Scroll down a bit. There we go. So you should just be able to wind this, change the balance, and that looks loads better. Both seem to be moving equally. Make sure your bolts are done tight, snip your cables, and the brakes are done. And finally, when it comes to the chain, we want to try and get them the same length. So I've got this new chain, 8-pound chain, SRAM PC830. Comes with a quick link as well. So we're going to take that into account. But the best way that I've found to compare old and new is to basically load them side by side. So I'm going to match them up, link for link, and count. There we go. So if that one stops there, I need to take off, because I'm including the quick link, take off up to here. So it's one less. So I need to break that one right there. And now in theory, all we've got to do is put this chain on. In theory. One half the quick link goes in, the other half goes in, pop them together and pull. Whoops, come on kid. It also helps if you just get it to the top of the chain. And then, there we go, it's locked in. One step out of the way. Only one thing left to do. Check it shifts. One, two, three, 4, 5, Stella, 6, cool. Bit slow, bit slow. Just gonna wind that a notch. It's rubbing on the front chainring. Now this was clearly how it was set up before, but it's rubbing on the front chainring a little bit. Yeah. That doesn't quite reach, so we're going to make an adjustment. Basically what I'm going to do is just undo the cable again and wind the low limit screw down a bit so it pushes the cage over. Hopefully you can see this. But there's two screws on top. Actually it's hidden by the arm. There's one here at the front which is the high limit, which dictates how far the cage stops coming out this way, and the back one's the low limit, which dictates how far it either is that way or that way. So I'm going to wind this in, which will push the cage over towards the outside. There. And then that's quiet then. A little bit. That should be good there. But now the cable is a little bit slack, so I do have to retension the cable. Now hopefully this should shift better. As I said, the limit screws, so I'm going to wind this one out a little bit. And there we go. Down, down, up, up, spot on. Cool, and there we go. That is one bike serviced. Hopefully we've covered all points. If you want to know about doing pedals and wheels, I've got those in another video where you strip those down, clean them, repack them, all that jazz. But the main service of a bike, I would say, is these components that we've changed today. So we've changed or assessed everything, assessed the tyres, the wheels, brakes, cables, inners and outers, bottom bracket, headset, checked over derailleurs, chain rings and all that. And what we've ended up doing is changing a couple of the outer cables, all the inner cables, brake pads, chain, cassette. Gave everything a huge deep clean and serviced the bottom bracket and headset. So, hope this was useful. Hope this long video, because it will be a long video, trust me, the cleaning took a lot longer. Hope it was interesting and useful, and it helps you as a beginner out on your journey. And this bike is now perfectly rideable. Yeah, looks really nice as well. Really good condition for a 91 or a 92 or a 90. Anywhere between there. Haven't quite worked it out yet. So, thanks for watching. If you do like this video, then please hit the subscribe button, notifications, like, share it round and all that jazz. Tell all your friends. Yeah, check out some of the other videos. I'll see you in the next one.